Madame, je vous en prie.
Good morning, everyone. and thank you for being courageous as to being here on a Saturday morning. I want to take advantage of having the microphone to ask you to give a warm applause to Damien Bachou and to have a standing ovation. If we had more of Damien Bachou in the world, I can tell you that I wouldn't be in front of you today because everything would be fine.
Yeah, right.
We have also something to share in common, and it is something that happened in our life that we didn't know of yesterday evening. During the dinner, we found out that in fact life was funny enough as to have met the possibility that we would have met long time ago, around 2008 or something like that. And because a colleague of ours had met him when he was a doctor in France. We were working in the same hospitals, Necker Hospital, Trousseau Hospital, and she called him up because she knew how brilliant he is. So she wanted to have this brilliant element in France and in the laboratory that I was creating from scratch in this hospital. And unfortunately, he declined the invitation, and you got Damien for you. And life is funny enough that a couple of years later, he wanted to get hold on me, and he took the opportunity of this book, which has been a really political tool in France, in Japan, in a number of countries, because people use it to sue Pfizer and laboratory, because it has all the elements that basically say they knew in advance, and it gives all the references for for the lawyer to sue them. I just want to make a little introduction on this book. The first of it is that all the money that I gained from this book, and it's the same with Damien, we found again one another having the same behavior, the same interest into giving out the money, all the money that we get from this book. We give it to people who really need it. And in my case, so in his case, it's children in Moldavia, and in my case, it is all the suspended people in France who had a job, who were in the healthcare, and who were fired because they refused to get this experimental genetic injection. Not only were they fired, but they were not allowed to work anymore for over 600 days. So it was a horrible situation where they were, and basically they were completely desperate if they didn't have a family to give them money or neighbors. And so I'm really happy because with the great success of that book, it helped them quite a bit, quite substantially. So this is to tell you that it is a nice adventure when you buy this book. I'm giving you a few subtitles with this book. One of it is that there is a little dedication at first, and in France they were really, the journalists were really angry at me because I said to Maria, to Mary on the first page, and so the journalists were just, who is Mary? I said, well, it's not none of your business. When you do a dedication, when you do a book, you don't have to say who is Mary. But to you Romanian people, I will tell you who was Mary and who I dedicated the book to. So now you have the evidence. It's here. And that is why it has been a great success, because she made it a great success. So this is one thing. The other thing is that there is a note of the editor. So that is to say that the editor had to protect himself, because it's the best editor in France. He had to protect himself, they had to protect themselves, saying, oh, we are not sure, what she's saying in her book, so I want to take my distance. This is something that you never normally see in a book, and this was very interesting. The other thing interesting is that in the introduction, they forced me to say that I was not a conspirationist, that to utter a number of things, which I found very strange, but I did because otherwise I wouldn't have been allowed to write the book. Basically what I tried is to put information even between the lines. So you should somewhat laugh when you read the book, because it is written in a light manner, just like a novel, not like a scientific book. Or I make fun of the system because I think that humor is actually a weapon that they do not have. They do not laugh when they tell us that the viruses go out between special hours. They do not laugh when they say that the virus is going up in the air, but if you sit at the coffee, it's our Prime Minister who said that. If you sit at the coffee, then the virus goes just above your head. Ah, si tu veux, là, ça sera mieux. Voilà, ça sera mieux. I feel better now, because then I can put all my okay. So that was so the humor is very important, and that's why I say at one moment. So I go from the politics to what is RNA and what is our genetic, because it's passionating, and I think that anyone who is a human being needs to know how lucky we are to be human beings and to have such a genetics. Then I go into the mRNA technology and tell you that basically in 20 years of trial, they always failed. And I go into each trial on cancer as well, showing the disaster. And then I go into the scandals of the big pharma, of the industrial pharmaceutical industry on other drugs, to show you that it takes a while before they get in trouble. But once they are in trouble, they pay us a huge amount of money, and they go and they do again, and they do again, and they do again. So they keep on harming people, and I thought it was interesting to have some kind of a history. And the last part, no, not the last part, the last chapter is about social engineering, and in fact, it gives you the pressure that the mother, the last chapter, the conclusion is for you, because it shows how they put the social pressure on parents so that they vaccinate their children. And the very last part, where is the thank part, the remerciement. In fact, I go into telling you more about this strange philosophy of transhumanism. And in fact, through my acknowledgements, you understand what we should worry next. So and it's a very short book. So that's it, and with that I will move on to this presentation. You know that I have no conflict of interest, and that I like to repeat it, because if everyone was doing, it doesn't work. Et toi, au lieu d'Alexandre, au lieu de faire le mauvais élève, ça marche pas. Le pointeur ne marche pas. Je ne peux pas passer la prochaine diapositive.
You have to hold on a second.
Okay,
It
all
will
right.
fix it.
So this is the sentence that everyone should say. A prime minister, a member of parliament, a journalist, doctors invited to speak. Anyone who does not say that sentence, you should ask him, even if you are very confident with that person, you have to ask the person. Because I've seen so many people, they think that they don't have a conflict of interest, and by the end, they do have one. So please, let's come back to, it's like politeness, it's like, give me your interest so that I know who I'm talking to. Alors, ça ne marche pas? Vous voulez pas me donner la... In this presentation, so I gave, it is a conference that I gave in Estonia. So it's, each time I go somewhere, I get censored. So in Estonia, we were supposed to be with Kennedy, Bob Kennedy. Utrecht, 2025, Utrecht. Utrecht. And so it was it was supposed to have we were supposed to have a conference in Estonia, in the Parliament of Estonia, together with Bobby Kennedy, and there had been some pressure by the Prime Minister in Estonia, and so we had to cancel in the Parliament and to do it in a hotel. Then I gave this conference in the Netherlands, so this time it was not censored because the organizers had already spotted a place where it was okay for us to give our talks. And the idea of this talk is because we have been traumatized, we need to go back to reality. So the conference was Back to the Future, and I said, go back to reality. I just need to have the full screen. I know where it is if you are looking. So the reason why I took this little asterisk is because we are really a little bit of this asterisk. We are resistant, and Romania has been more resistant as a country than other countries, given the poor numbers of vaccination and that the government didn't transmit to our world in data. So it must be a good number, which is a low number, which is what we want. So the thing is very important, so you will, I'm happy to speak now after you got really scared by all the awful thing that you saw, even in Paris, in the museums. They urge you to fear. And they urge you to fear, pretending a number of threats here. Some may be real, some may be not, but the thing is that we don't know, but we know that they pretend another pandemics coming, a so-called X disease, an induced war, an induced social chaos, power outage, cyber attacks, no more communication, no more fuel, no more transportation, no more money if you do not have electricity. Spray or leak on land, in water, and through the air. Many laboratory-created biological weapons, whether viruses, bacteria, or vaccines. And massive killing of animals and plants, and unfortunately, we have had that taking place in France, pretending that one was sick, one individual in the cattle was sick, and so they would kill all the cattle. So the interesting thing is that they don't speak like we do. So when, instead of speaking like that, they say it's a damage to human welfare, a damage to the environment, a damage to the security of your nation. And something important when they list all what could happen, they even list homelessness. And I thought that was interesting because I was a bit surprised to find this word. So, of course, one would argue that fear, and you're right, fear is not healthy at all. Fear harms your health, and therefore we have been traumatized because indeed we have gone into fear or persecution in some manner. So we understand, all of us, that no fear is a necessary condition. But my question is, will it be sufficient to move on easily? So no matter what, I just told you, we endured trauma, and we still do. We have been banned from our own families, from friends, from colleagues. We have been threatened, excluded from our job, positions, publicly insulted, and still are, suspended, vaporized, and even one of them, Rainer Fulmich, got put in jail. So life has become a struggle for life, and the question is, how protective are we to one another? This is a very important question, because I can tell you that a solidarity is missing. It is something to be stressed and traumatized, we all have been, but even through the trauma, even when banned from our families or wherever, we need to remain human and to have some solidarity and to be protective of one another. And I think this is the only way that things do not worsen. So let's look at ourselves. How do we react? Are we misanthropes, anarchists, hypochondriacs, survivalists, paranoiacs, imposters? You had the disciplined ones that followed the line nicely. You had the opportunist one who suddenly you saw those people arriving in 2020, they were not here. Suddenly in 2021 they appear and they say, oh, it's a shame, whatever. You're just like, hey, where were you in 2020? It was already shocking what was going on. Some are piling gold, bitcoins, weapons, food, just like squirrel. And I like the sentence of this man. Darling, we keep stockpiling and stockpiling. Just when is this Armageddon going to start? So, and you have the realistic one. The realistic one are energetic, like a mule is, but they are neither calm nor stubborn. Mules are not stubborn, but beware, they can kick sideways. And you have the conspirationists, the Lemurians. Yeah. So they are the Lemurians. Another name of the Lemurians is called the conspirationists, even before COVID. So it's interesting because why do they say they are conspirationists? It's because they work as a team of 10 to 25 animals to practice mobbing. What is mobbing about? Mobbing is about being together and say, we don't want you, and together we get rid of the ones that we do not want. And I think mobbing is a very efficient way of saying some things that you do not want to happen. I heard that a laboratory was going to be built for a platform for mRNA in Romania, but the thing is that you don't want it. So take 10 to 25 of you are enough in this room, 10 to 25, and do the mobbing. You don't want it to happen? Do the mobbing. Stop being like, it's terrible, and they do that, and they do that. No, act. Go into the action, and the lemurs are really good for that. You also have, so this is some collective behaviors that I like, but if you go on BBC, that address, you have other animals, and I think they are very inspiring. Big Brother is watching us and learns. This is also very interesting. When you go onto social networks, beware that you are out in the field, that they are looking at you, at the way you react, at the time you spend on reading one article compared to another, and they learn a lot. For instance, they told us that there would be a monkeypox pandemic. So who is they? Is the World Health Organization. They declare that we had a monkeypox pandemic. A number of scientists and medical doctors say how shameful it was because no, we didn't fear anything, blah, blah, blah. I think they were wrong, because when something is completely crazy, like a monkeypox pandemic, we should say nothing. And this is exactly what they want us. They want us to be the commercial of the fear somehow. And this is how they work. So there have been many scientific articles saying how they use the misinformation, the public health messaging by Twitter, for instance, by deep learning, to improve what they consider will be the best policy. And they really do it. So, for instance, they do it in a scientific manner, those people. They say that if you immunize about 20% of the population against misinformation, then you are good, because then you can have power on enough people to revert the situation and to put it into your favor. So this is interesting for us, is that we understand that we need more than 20%. The other thing, the way they were typically 80, this is a scientific article, okay? They were typically 80 to 230 members of a bubble. Mean number is 150. So you have different agents that are spreading the information against your information. So they are creating information, I call it propaganda bubbles. And their propaganda bubbles work very efficiently, because with all these 150 people, then one single agent will throw 138 times message per hour. So the question I raise to you now, how do you want to compete with such a system? Unless we have our own bubbles, which I don't think we have, because we don't agree between ourselves even, it is extremely difficult to fight this system. The only possibility, I think, is to be aware of this system and not to feed the system. To understand that you are being watched when you look at a screen, any screen. Second, when they keep on preparing ourselves, you know how they prepare yourself for the next pandemic, how sweet of you, out of them. So this is what they do. In the UK, at the moment, maybe it has stopped, there was a Pegasus exercise where they were preparing the UK for a future health crisis. They call it a health crisis. What were they doing? Basically, they have been, their focus was as to fighting the misinformers, like people like us, who just think differently. I don't think we are misinformers. I just think that we have a different angle of presenting things, because, for instance, I present all the sources, the references, so that you people are free to think what you want to think. Second, in France, they told us that we will be into a situation where 100 to 500,000 people are going to go into hospital injured. The threat is huge. Can you imagine 500,000 people? So the hospitals in France received a letter from the government saying that about 500,000 people were going to be in hospitals by March 2026. What kind of game are they playing? Not a healthy one, that's for sure. And what to say about what happened in the United States, where they put a comic strip, a book, that was called Preparedness to Zombie Pandemic. A preparedness to zombie pandemic, and these people said that we are not serious and that they are serious, and they do comic strip. The CDC is the Center of Disease and Control. I mean, it's amazing. It's just fantastic. So let's move forward. So what they did in the UK is that all the people like you and I probably had a cell phone. And what the cell phone did on September the 7th, the phone started ringing like crazy, like doing huge sound that you would never have expected it to do, that you didn't even know that your phone was able to do that, because they call that emergency alert, wireless emergency alert. And we are just like in a bad movie. Huh? And so they received that. And so I think that you have an opportunity here is to report it as junk. So I think that whatever the government is sending you, reporting as junk is a probably healthy attitude. Why do I say it's healthy? Because you have had a number of history of false alarms. One time they said a missile was coming, and there was nothing. One time they said a tornado is coming, and there was nothing. One time they said they did an enormous evacuation of the Los Angeles County, and in fact there was only one part that really needed evacuation because there was really a fire. So what they created is a huge traffic jam, and the people where the fire was had big trouble to evacuate because they alert the big county. And sometimes they have target errors that are sent to the TV station. So basically, I went back to understanding the origin of this WEA, and the previous name were Commercial Mobile Alert System. Commercial, okay, I get it. Then before that, they said another name. They said Personal Localized Alerting Network. Okay. Personal localization. You get it all. With all this name that they used in the past, I find it extremely interesting to understand what is the source of those alerts. Then, when sharing the information is close to impossible. For over the past years, even more, for over 6 years, I have been censored. I was the very first in France to be blacklisted from the media, and the reason being that I felt free enough as to express myself on bioethics and a number of issues that they were doing to human beings. So they stopped me very early on, and so there is no other possibility than reacting differently. So as soon as I could get out in the street, I organized some, we organized together with a friend of mine, Sophie Tissier, whom I thank very much. We organized the first demonstration in Paris. How many were we? 20. We were 20. But it doesn't matter, because we know the mobbing attitude and the Lemmer's attitude. So the 20 became that kind of huge demonstration, and it was in every city in France, because I would go to all the cities where they had the difficulty to mobilize the people. So be local and be human. They didn't have internet in the Balkans, and they could organize this huge human chain, fantastic human chain of I don't remember how many kilometers, hundreds of kilometers. So together we can do that even if we do not have internet. The issue in red here is that this took place a couple of years ago, but they understood. And so now they are using the same attitude. So like Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, is doing the same thing. They say no signal, no problem. The Cameroon health workers are drumming to support for vaccination. They say respect, collaboration, build bridges. They say trust starts with connection. They say smiles, courage, protection. Beware that they understood. They moved on into pretending that they are human, they have human attitudes. So I think that, I don't know what you have in Romania, but in Europe, we had a system that worked really nicely when we needed to gather the people. We had the church bell ringing. In every villages in France, you had the church bell ringing that we should gather. Unfortunately, we do not have, they do not work anymore in France, and I believe not here. So you had some opportunities, like in the UK, you had the hashtag in the park. So in the park, they would gather a number of them to be together, to eat a little something, to speak. And it is very important to have rendezvous, chronic rendezvous, where you know where to meet everyone. And in France, we had two things. So we had the human chain, that was very important to put energy back to us, between us. And we had La France Prix. And La France Prix is the fact that every Wednesday at 6 o'clock, in front of the church, not inside the church, in front of the church, in the street, people gather in villages, in towns, in big cities, wherever. So they have, so sometimes it's 6 o'clock Wednesday, sometimes it's Saturday. It depends. No matter what, you do the way you want, but you do create a rendezvous that you know that in case anything, and you go there regularly, because otherwise everyone says, oh, I will go when it's time. Well, when it's time, it's too late.
Yeah.
So, so these are little things that I can share. So, so let's, oops, no, sorry. So now I will give you 7 tips as to, you know, be, let's say, have fun and look at it in, I could do that as soon as now. First, block all the fear promoters to celebrate together. Those are the fear promoters. So that's why the way we do it in France. We put them in a tree so that they don't bother us, and we have enjoyed a good meal, which is what we did yesterday. Thank you again for that fantastic. We danced. We together with Alexandra. We danced with Tsigan song, and so okay. But in order to do that, if at our table during the dinner, one of us would have promoted fear, like, you know what they are going to do, you know, it would have been bad because we wouldn't have enjoyed the moment. So it's good to be prepared, but not to have the fear promoters. Those are the kind of threats that prime ministers they're saying. On July 2021, Mario Draghi in Italy said, calls for people not to get vaccinated is a call for people to die. If you do not vaccinate, you get sick. You die, or you let other people die. How can, you know, politicians say that kind of thing? And all our politicians said the same kind of thing, basically. They are talking of hope. I feel hope, blah, blah, blah. And they are putting us into a bad situation where we are. Now, blocking the fear promoters is not enough. You need to block those who promote division. And you have had a lot of these promoters of division within our, the people who pretend to think the same way we think. And these are like, they will say, they will play on the egos, and they will reach the situation where the people will fight to one another. So you have to be to understand that all our gatherings are infiltrated, and of course they are, because this is the way the system has to react in order to protect their propaganda. So beware of anyone who promotes division. Second, watch closely your environment. I always looked fascinated by flocks in the sky, all those birds that evaluate in such a beautiful dance. How do they do it? It's easy. One looks at 7 around him. All these birds have 7 checkpoints around themselves. How easy it would be for us all to have 7 checkpoints to understand any situation. You don't need people like us. You do not need to, you can be a public health expert yourself. Just let's come back 5 years ago when the COVID arrived. You had to look at what was going on at home. Was everyone dying at home? At your work? In your neighborhood? Where your animals changed behavior, your pets or whatever? Just look at 7 checkpoints and assess the current situation. Because the current situation you assess with the 7 checkpoints is your reality.
Right.
Better if you do all watching, if you don't want someone to do like what they did in Cannes. So what they did in Cannes, they arrived with this kind of people, spraying some H2O2 on beaches, so, to protect the people. And you see these women who are just like, this man is really crazy. What they should have done, rather than looking and sometimes filming, I think they should have done all watching or librarians. So the idea is to be together and to go to really look at the guy who is crazy. And if you are together doing an all watching, then there is an inversion of power. And I have experienced it many times when doing the demonstration. Because what we do not want to happen anymore in our lives is that kind of images, nor that kind of images for someone who is said to have respiratory distress. Look, when you have a respiratory distress and you are stressed like that in your bag, you're in a bad situation. Become an expert in infectious diseases. Throughout pandemic, no one ever died from viruses. This is actually a publication from Fauci, and his conclusion was that pandemic planning needs to go beyond addressing the viral cause alone, because the idea is that, in fact, the people were not dying from the virus, but they were dying of the bacteria. So antibiotics are really good against bacteria, but there are other ways of fighting. Next, number 3, use your words, your criteria, not theirs. We had a discussion with Janina on that, and I think you need to have your own words, to fight with your words. Okay, they say it was, they say you were facing a pandemic. No, it was not a pandemic, it was an epidemic of madness in a healthy world based on a PCR fraud. A deadly virus, it was SARS-CoV-2 being a human-engineered bioweapon circulating since 2019. A vaccine, no, it was a forced experimentation with poisonous products. Lockdown, no, we were home jailed with 5G blossoming everywhere. mRNA vaccination, no, it was the first mass genetic modification of human. Call for solidarity, no, it was the extinction of solidarity, of empathy in a control-freak society packed with traitors. Facing a health crisis, no, it was enemies that became the health providers. The health providers became the enemies. The police became the enemy. The church became your enemy. Your schools, your restaurants because all these people told you that you could enter their places if you had a pass, or they shut their mouth, which in any cases it was not a beautiful thing to see in our mad world. 4, think about your first aid kit. It is good to remember what used to work in comparison, and this is really much opposed to their health solutionism. So their health solutionism is that there is only one solution to any diseases, it's vaccine. We understood that. Okay, their world is like a new religion. But we know that a number of things did work in the past. And for instance, I like this video from the BBC back in 1959, and those people were asked, what do you do when you have a flu? And they would say, I take vitamin C, lemon barley, and a good whiskey. I take some boiled water. I take Spanish onions, brown sugar, vinegar, and whiskey. Sweaty socks with salt, pullover, hot water bottle. Hot rum punch and a jolly good sweat. Whatever. What is said here is that basically in 1959 they were doing the exact contrary of what we are doing. When we have fever, we protect us from fever. And fever is obviously a reaction. And what they did, these people, they said that only one good sweat or maybe 2 good sweat would get you in a better health situation. So what I'm bringing is, you understand, I want you not to be feared. So if you have no more drugs in the pharmacy, don't worry, you have so many possibilities out there. And this is actually the work I do in the research institute that I created in Mauritius. And the idea is to share, not to sell, just to share ideas. And the ideas that are out there, vitamin D, vitamin C, moringa, artemisia, licorice, larvinsara, propolis, lactoferrin, curcumin, all these are fantastic molecules or plants or herb tea that works. And my favorite being the one with honeysuckle, because it was, you had even the mechanism of how it works against influenza, enterovirus, varicella, dengue, COVID-19. So, you know, we have a lot of knowledge now. We have a lot of scientific knowledge. And this scientific knowledge is good because it can help you knowing why the traditional medicine was right. Because as a matter of fact, this honeysuckle herbal tea were given in Chinese traditional medicine for years. Almost all drugs were efficient against COVID, and this is very important to know as well. The only one that was not efficient and that increased risk was paracetamol, the only one that it told you to take. Define what is non-negotiable for you. Number 5, no compromise on those intrusions in your body, whether from here or even they're proposing in Spain and in France and in China the annual PCR test. So you have to say no compromise. I don't want any intrusion into my body. Never answer, never ask. This is a very important key as well. Non-qualified individuals who are neither doctors nor nurses should never have known whether you were vaccinated or not vaccinated. And likewise, you should never have asked to anyone, because this is about private life. If we had been doing that, not asking whether they were vaccinated or whether they were not vaccinated, or people coming to me like saying in the demonstration, they were just saying, you know, I'm not vaccinated. And I was just like, you know, if you were vaccinated, I would just receive you just the same. You know, it's just like, it's not possible to put the division. Remember the division promoter, no division. Never answer, never ask. It is about medical secret. No compromise on intrusion either into your genome. And unfortunately, those mRNA techniques and the techniques that keep on developing at the moment are intrusions into our genomes. We have to remember that it's so easy to be in good health and to have a good immune system. I will give you two examples, two articles. One is in the PNAS, which is supposed to be the best reference in our world, the scientific world, and they go doing a huge scientific work just to come out with the conclusion that on an immunological point of view and a psychological point of view, it is really good to walk in green space. It is really good to have dogs. It is really good to have social interaction, team sports, sunlight, exercise. I don't think you needed science to know that, but please remember how important, because the clinical outcomes of this is less death, less depression. Something important as well, that with screens have gone much under the radar of attention, is the circadian rhythm. The circadian rhythm are the daylight, and limit alcohol and caffeine before bed, but limit as well the blue screen, the blue light of your screens, but because they ruin a big part of your circadian rhythmicity. And the circadian rhythmicity is to keep strict on sleep schedule. All these things that our grandparents knew and were doing, we have stopped doing it because of screens. Go back to what is good for you. Play collective, number 6, there are only 7 points. Play collective, this is very difficult for human beings. They don't like to play collective. So I thought of a way that everyone, even the selfish ones, could play collective. How do we do that? Just think, in case there is loss of electricity, another lockdown, another whatever, what do I need? I don't grow my own food, so I need food provider in my case. So, food providers, did I go to my food providers and tell them all I know? Did I tell them what is in my, did I give them my book so that they would read it? So that they would understand in case something again happens? I'm not sure I did. Then it would be my fault if I didn't do that. So to go to everyone, the one who provides the water, the one who provides the smile and the laugh, the one who are the compass for you, the lighthouse in the darkness, the one who can provide you with a home, go to them, speak to them, inform them, and see how, in reverse, how can you help them? Because life is about reciprocity. There is no way you are going to use these people without being helpful yourself. Avoid virtuality. Avoid virtuality of social networks or of these scientists, like this head of R&D in Pfizer, who waited until 2022 to publish in Nature COVID vaccines where, about COVID vaccines, she says, we flew the aeroplane while we were still building it. Wow! That is what they have offered to us. So of course I speak about it in my book because this is just amazing. We flew the aeroplane while we were still building it. So if you speak to anyone who do fly in pilots, they say that no pilot has ever, even the first ones, has ever flew in an aeroplane while building it. So this is, I will go in this regards this afternoon, because, no, maybe not, so in case I don't go into it. When I say become a public health expert, I say look at the images that you are given. You see several people falling dead in the street. So you have to look in a fearless manner. You have to analyze the pictures, and you're just like, okay, what is going on? Was there a nuclear bombing? No, because everything would be devastated. Was there asphyxiating gas? No, because people are walking or riding their bike with mask, light mask. Were there lethal radiation? It could be, we don't know, but then they have stopped doing the lethal radiation. Poisoning, or don't forget, they could be actors. It's interesting because often when you have a picture of you in the newspaper or on the TV, you often are an actor. So this I will go. In case you live in the city, don't worry. If you didn't speak to your water provider, it's okay. But and if you don't have a well next to you, it's okay. But don't flush. Don't flush. So that means if you want to go to the restroom, take a plastic bag and do whatever you need to do somewhere else in the plastic bag. Because this is a fantastic reservoir of water on which you can survive very long time, and you can do a lot of things with a reservoir of water like that. So you have your own tank, don't worry. You can, if you still have time to fill in a bath and to keep this water, you also have bath. Don't panic if you didn't plan in advance the food and you didn't go do the grocery shopping, because I'm sure that at your home you do have some seeds, and seeds you can grow them in no time, and to have vitamins, a fresh food of vitamins. So it's going to be okay. Don't stress. In case you miss out completely, which is often my case, I'm really I give good advice, but I don't practice them. Then it's still okay. Because I'm not saying you should do that, but I say it's still okay. They tell you that you should be dying if you have no more water, if you don't drink. But we know from the science that dry fasting, that is to say no food, no water, no nothing, for 5 consecutive days is actually a good way of having short-term antioxidant, anti-ischemic, immune-stimulating, blah, blah, blah. So you see that. And even if you are diabetic, they show that with dry fasting there is a compensation, and in fact it is not so dramatic for the people who even have diabetes. So I like to go in the worst scenario, let's say nuclear bombing. Nuclear bombing, you were at the wrong place at the wrong moment. And yet this is something that you are not supposed to know. But I think it can be useful for you to know that in Hiroshima and in Nagasaki, you had a very strange phenomenon taking place. The only survivors, you have those survivors here who are still walking and who died from ages, all of them, not because of the radiation. They died from ages, whether in Hiroshima or in Nagasaki. What were they doing at the time of the nuclear bombing? They were there. In fact, they were praying the rosary. So how beautiful and how great to understand that you shouldn't be scared. And at last, I want to make you as free as possible and to remember you have senses. And your senses are a fantastic tool, but we tend to use it less and less due to screens and due to lack of confidence. So in 2018, I did this conference at the TEDx conference, and I say use all of your senses. And I think it is worth looking at it because it is good. You will. I share a dream here, and I think you will have. I hope you will have a nice time listening to this short talk. So to conclude, in France we have always had the feeling that the sky was about to fall on our heads. First, fear not. Second, watch your environment. Third, use your words, not theirs. 5, define the non-negotiable for you. 6, build your MIDI society. 7, avoid virtuality and enjoy. Never again guinea pigs. Never again gel, never again Muppets, never again GMO. Thank you very much.